Hey guys, it's Matthew here once again, and today I want to talk about three issues, I think. That is Alchemy Orbs, the sustaining of them, maps, the dropping and sustaining of them, and Spirit Beasts, mostly their spawn rates, I suppose. So to start off with, I wanted to talk about Alchemy Orb, the issue at hand at the moment with Alks themselves. So what I'm referring to, and as I'm sure you've noticed, because I certainly have myself, is that Alchemy Orbs are very hard to come by this league, and a lot of people are trading in them right now when they're putting their items up for sale. They're listing them for Alchemy Orbs because they need them for their maps and various other shenanigans, and because they're pretty damn hard to get. They are actually as expensive as I think they've ever been, at around 1.6 Alks to the Chaos right now. Usually in previous leagues they've been something more like 1 to 3, maybe even 1 to 4 to the Chaos, because there's usually quite an abundance of Alks and it's not something you ever really pay attention to. You would typically play a league and have your Alk stockpile on absolute autopilot, use them as you wanted to, and still have plenty left over. And I think the reason that we are struggling for them so hard right now, people have speculated that it's because net drops are taking over currency drops, and that could be it. And GGG did say that there's a little bit of that going on, but that's mostly for Uberlab chest drops, something like that. I think the main reason is simply that this league is really devoid of loot compared to previous leagues, compared to a lot of previous leagues. The league mechanic itself just does not provide that much currency or that much loot in general for us, and it is more or less playing standard. We're almost getting nothing bonus. Whereas you compare it to the previous leagues of Abyss, when there's Abyssal Cracks with lots of extra loot dropping, Harbinger, a lot of extra Harbingers, they drop lots of extra loot as well as lots of extra shards for the new currency orbs. You look at Legacy League with much more loot there based off of Breach and various other old league mechanics, and then Breach itself, which was just a rain of loot at all times. We are simply just not used to this amount of loot not dropping for the game and having to play in a completely different manner once again. So overall, I do think it's just largely that the actual league mechanic is nowhere near as loot heavy as the previous ones, and that means you have to run around and pick up a lot more loot that you would otherwise filter out or just not pick up altogether because you were lazy and couldn't be screwed like me. I used to almost never pick up crappy uniques and just leave a lot of that sort of stuff on the ground. These days I pick up every unique I find and I vendor it because I simply need to get the Alchemy Orbs back. About a week ago I completely ran out of Alchemy Orbs. I had 0 left, and ever since then I bought about another 40, 50, and I've been trying to loot all the uniques, been trying to keep a full inventory to vendor of rares and all that, and I've been just slowly hemorrhaging on Alks. It doesn't help that everyone wants you to buy their shit with Alchemy Orbs, so chances are you're going to have to convert some of your other currency to Alks as well. So it's a bit of a problem, and if you're not experiencing that, then shit, maybe tell us what you're doing. But for the most part, I think a lot of us are struggling on Alks, and you just have to slow down, pick up some more loot, and pick up uniques especially to vendor at the moment. Now the next fairly glaring issue that I think a lot of us have run into as well is the map drop rate or map sustain rate. Currently, at just about 2 weeks in, I'm sitting at 122 out of 157. My usual strategy for completing an atlas or managing an atlas throughout a league is to complete everything. I want to run lots of different maps, I want to have lots of different layouts and fight different bosses, monsters, all that, as well as give myself a good chance at good map sustain. This league so far has felt pretty tough. Now, it usually does feel very tough early on, so it's a bit too early for me to completely say that map drops are tough or anything, but I do feel like there's been a bit of struggle, at least for me, and from what I've seen from other people, we kind of think there might be something going on there too. Currently, I'm struggling to sustain anything above tier 12, even just get returns above tier 12, so I've still got a lot of maps to fill out on the inside. I'm struggling to get them to drop, to just tick them off to begin with, and actually complete a lot of my red elders without resorting to just buying maps from other people, trading maps, all of that. I've done very minimal amounts of actual map trading and buying. I've bought maybe like 10, 15 sort of maps, put about an exalt or so into it. But it has been really tough, and currently my map pool looks something like this, where I've got, you know, a couple of tier 16s, a few tier 15s, barely any tier 14s, barely any tier 13s, and they're just not really dropping in varied amounts, like Ghetto, for example, I completed fairly early on. I don't think I've seen another one of those since I've started this shit, so that's kind of random, and just have not dropped a lot of the others. Tier 12s I can kind of sustain, but as soon as I start running them, we're going to plummet down, and then of course we're down to tier 11s, which really isn't too impressive either. My yellow map pool is not too bad at this point. Plenty of tier 10s, I have completed most of them, and I don't think the whole alchemy and Varlob situation is helping. I'm barling just about everything I can, I'm chiseling a lot of my higher maps, and it has been kind of tough to sustain. So I'm not too sure if that's just a me issue at the moment. I do usually struggle at the start of a league for my high map sustain, and usually I supplement that with some Uber Siri runs, maybe a couple Uber Labs over there for chests, but usually it's just Uber Siri runs for me that supplement my map drops, buying maybe a few Guardian maps so I can get some Shaper runs done, and usually get some maps through there. But at a certain point, I do usually hit a tipping point where I start another character, I go up through the white and yellow maps again, pick up a few extra reds, and after starting 2 or 3 characters, I usually hit this sort of a point of no return for my maps where I just cannot possibly lose, and I never really lose on maps ever again, and it's just pure massive sustain. I have lots and lots of red maps. So I do think it's probably still too early to make any sort of conclusions, because it usually takes me a good few weeks to a month to really establish my map base, but it's just sort of throwing that out there as a talking point for now, because I have heard a lot of other people discussing this too, and usually just running these super high tier maps and really hard mods and all that does give me some decent return and sustain, as you can see in a map like this one. But if you're struggling to even get up to the red map tiers, as a lot of people have come to me with that problem, all I'll say is try to use your currency as much as possible. Your Alks, your Chaos, try and run some pretty hard map mods, use your chisels if you need to, and don't be afraid to buy a few maps to fill out your atlas so you get plenty of completion, so you're all over the atlas. And it is at that point just a grind. It took me quite a long time to get out of whites, and then quite a long time to get out of certain tier 7s, 8s, 9s, all of that. You just got to keep bashing your head against the wall using your currency, and eventually you will hit that next tier, though currently the red tiers feel like they're pretty damn hard to sustain. And lastly, we were just then given some stats about some beast crafting and bestiary league shenanigans and all that about the current league. Just recently, mostly about what the crafting's been like, what people have been using. To no surprise, create a unique item is easily the most common thing, because it feels like the only one you actually potentially get a reward for, but you can look through this on your own. The main talking point I wanted to touch on was just the prevalence of the Spirit Beast fight. So if you're unaware of what the Spirit Beast fight are, which you probably are because you don't fucking see these things, you run around as per usual throughout your mapping, you come across certain legendary or red beasts on your map, you catch them, and the right ones that get caught can open up a portal to a spirit beast realm. One of 4 different types of spirit beasts. You then go into that portal after using the recipe, kill whatever spirit beast is in there, and get one of 4 pieces of unique loot, which are kind of like a set piece for that type of beast. And currently I personally have seen Venomous' lair once, and that is in something like 60 or 70 hours of gameplay. I've got a level 92 and a level 90 character, and I've seen 1 red legendary beast that let me open a portal. That is 1 for Venomous' lair, and overall these numbers just do not look very healthy for just the majority of people that would be playing in these endgame maps. Feral's Den having 1.4 thousand opens is really sad, and as someone mentioned, it's because it's one of the higher level beasts, so a Feral's monster that can be caught will only really spawn in really high level maps, so like 80 plus, meaning that not too many of us are going to be seeing them. You don't really have that many chances to even run across this monster or even spawn the monster that you then catch and then run into and fight inevitably to get some trash item. So it seems really disheartening, just the absolute spawn rate, and Chris did just say on Reddit in response to a few people that they're going to have a look at this and possibly raise the drop rate of these spirit beasts soon after checking out what the trading system has done, because now you're going to be able to catch the beast and then trade it, and other people will be able to open this shit. But that is really not how you want to do it. It's not going to be fun for any of us to go in for your first ferals or, you know, Venomous by buying the beast off someone else. That's really uninteractive league mechanic. So I think that definitely needs looking into. We've got to have a lot more legendary beasts. Got to have a lot more spirit beast fights, even if you don't have a guaranteed drop rate maybe. I don't know. It just, this is not the right way to do it for the fun aspect of the game, I don't think, anyway. So hopefully, awfully soon, they will conclude that this stuff needs to be buffed before it's just too late for the league to be recovered. And we'll come across a lot more of these spirit beasts, have a lot more fun, use a lot more of their items, because currently there are 16 unique items or set pieces to use from these bosses. I personally, with my huge amounts of playtime compared to the average person, have seen one of those items, so not even close to completing a set or using multiple items worth of synergy, let alone what everyone else is going to do. So if I want to do it, I have to go out there and buy it. And for example, the Ferrule chest piece is a really nice looking chest and looks like it'll be fun to play around with. 9 exalts, because it's that rare, not even linked, just 9 exalts. That seems pretty steep. In any case, yeah, that's just all I wanted to talk about for this video, guys. Just a few little discussion points and some concerns. Not too sure what's going on with a lot of those things, alks, maps, and spirit beasts. But in general, that's all I want to say, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.